All right, so here we are, day one of skinning the building. So I hired a crew after I got as far as I felt I could do myself, and I didn't want to have a bunch of friends try and do this. These guys are professionals and do it all the time, so they're gonna make sure the panels are straight and installed right. I mean, I'm sure I could have done it with my friends, but the siding, the roof, I didn't want to have people falling off the roof. But so far we've started stringing the metal bands. Maybe you can see between the purlins, and that will be what holds the insulation up. And then so they had one guy doing that on their lift, and then my lift right here, they're using it outside to get this end wall on. So right now they're trimming the piece and getting ready to make it fit around the door. So it's going pretty fast after they laid everything out, pre-drilled the holes so that all the screws will be in a straight row as they attach to the girts. And they got this pretty sweet little oven, wood-fired oven that they use to cook on. But that's the end wall so far, what they got going on. So we got the closure strips on the bottom and foam tape just to be a break between the siding and the framing. So that's what they got done so far. This is the first day. They showed up last night and just dropped the trailer off. And then it's about noon. They started at about 7:30 and just got all the pieces laid out how they wanted them and pre-drilled. So they actually just put up the first piece about half an hour ago, and then threw up two more, and then they had to cut this one. So that takes time, but yeah, it will go pretty quick after they get these pieces that need to be cut. They'll knock out this end wall today, probably within the next 2 hours, but at the pace they're going, depending on if they take a break for lunch or not, or kind of just eat while they're working. I don't know. It's a Saturday, so it's good that they started on a Saturday. Gives them a jump on next week. So they're gonna take Sunday off, but when they come back Monday, they don't get started on the other end wall. I mean, I'm sure they'll just be able to bang it out by noon on Monday. So watch them put this piece up. It's definitely an effort that I would say you probably need at least 3 people for, but to have 4 people, as you can see, probably just works out for the best. All right, guys, this is the end of day 2 of the skinning of the shop. So they called this the Cook Rentals company that I use. After they had trouble with their normal company, Cook Rentals delivered this right away. So they got this, and they needed this primarily so that they'll be able to get everything up on the roof. But let me show you the building real quick. So when we last left off, we had this wall done as the end of day 1, and then on the second day they got this wall done. And all the time that they were working on that, they were had one guy inside working, still running these straps for the insulation. Everything going along the length of the purlins is up, so they started running across the purlins, and so they're gonna run 5 straps on each bay. So we got a lot of straps left to do, but check out the building from the inside. Now once the insulation is up, you won't be able to see the walls from the inside. You will only be able to see the white vinyl fabric, and then the Only thing left showing will be like the primary framing. The rest will all be the white vinyl. Should be covering up all the secondary stuff. So very bright, clean appearance. Pretty happy with how it's going so far. Now it's starting to get appropriate to use doors. So that was the first time I actually ever needed to use that door. But they have done a good job. As you can see, all the screws, they pre-drilled them so they're all in a line. And it's pretty cool if you can see on camera where they're looking up this way. They're also all lined up. So there's stitch screws where the pieces overlap, and then there's longer screws like on all the girts. So that's what's going on with that. But yeah, they started at the back and worked to the front so that from this direction you can't see anything overlapping. But when you come back here on the side that you would be on the lease, you can see the overlap. Not that it's ugly or anything, but it's just a cleaner look from this side versus this side. But yes, it does have to overlap somewhere. Overall, I'm still pretty happy with how this is working. So this will get attached whenever they put on the corner trim here, and you won't be able to see, there won't be any gap because the piece fits over that corner. That's what it looks like from pulling in the driveway. Of course, that big mound of dirt is not going to be there. Alright guys, this is day 3, end of day 3 of the build. So they started on Saturday, and then yesterday was Monday, and after they got done last night, it rained, which kind of sucked because one, it got the ground wet, and they were running the big telehandler on this stuff, so it kind of made a little bit of a mess, but it wasn't too bad. But the biggest problem was the floor of the shop got wet, and since it's not level, like it kind of like ponds and holds a bit of water, so it's not ideal. One, you're walking around and it's very easy to end up with wet shoes. You know how bad that is to have wet feet all day. But also, we wanted to stage some of the insulation in there for tomorrow, and we want to get the water out just so it dries more overnight, and also so that we can store the insulation in there and get it ready. I ended up just throwing it on a couple pallets. But yeah, today was a good day. You can see a little bit of the mess they made, but whatever, it will happen. So we got insulation staged in here. We got the whole back wall done today, so that was pretty awesome. Back wall is complete, and then we have the liner already up. So all the strapping is complete. So the liner goes up, and then after you get the liner in, you get it nice and tight and you get it glued. Then you take screws and screw the straps into the purlins so they can't move around, and so that they can support the weight between the purlins of the insulation. So tomorrow we will roll insulation in that gap there, and then we will do insulation across and then put roof panels down. Well, so here's the new building. Definitely, like, the doors just, I had them in and they seem good, but now that the whole building, so the sheet metal is actually structural, so that it triangulates or whatever all the members on the outside, so it just feels really solid now. You can see my downspouts here. I went with the same color as the building versus going with the trim color, just because I felt like I didn't need to have like 5 stripes on the building. But yeah, so it turned out great. So the insulation package is pretty good. So it's like the energy saver system. So I forget what the numbers are, but it's probably R38 roof and R25 on the walls. It's got this vinyl liner that covers up all your secondary members, so you only see the primary 3, and then we opted to do the rafters in that fashion up top. For some reason, it feels bigger than it did when it was open. I can't really explain it, but I just feel like when I see all the walls up, I can actually have a better vision of, like, okay, a boat can fit here and there will still be plenty of space around it. A camper can fit here, lots of space around it. So my building is 20 foot tall at the eaves, and it has a 112 pitch on the roof. That's a Galvalume roof, so there's no paint on it. It's just shiny metal, basically. But we're standing uphill of it, so that the camera level might be close to the top of the door frames, and you really can't see much of the roof. So I'm glad I didn't opt for painting the roof. That would have been a few $1,000 option to go with a painted roof, but you can't see it when you go with a low pitch. So that both saves you money as far as not painting it, and it's also easier to work on if you ever have to get up there. It's not intimidating at all. So, all right, guys. I guess I'll just wrap up this video. So as far as like the skinning of the building and the insulation, that's all complete. And I'll just kind of go over, what my experience of that was. The biggest problem was I was doing the building myself as far as the erection, and I wanted to get all my doors and windows in place and trim. All that stuff I wanted to do myself. 1, to save money, but 2, just so I could, have the pride of doing it myself and know that it was done to my standards. But the biggest flaw that I had was, as far as like it was a time delay, I didn't schedule the builders to come and skin it early enough, because I didn't know how long it would take me to finish doing all the trim work and everything, so that I was ready for them. And it ended up, the crew I found that I felt the most comfortable with doing the work, they were busy all summer, so I ended up with a 6 to 8 week break from the last time I put the last piece of trim on until they were able to show up and start doing the siding. So that's just something for you to look out for, if try and schedule it tighter for yourself if you don't want to end up having to wait like I did. I guess the bottom line is these guys that I hired, all they do is metal buildings like this, and they're really good at it. So had they showed up and I didn't have all the trim done, they could have finished that, and it probably wouldn't have really cost that much more. But anyway, to get into costs, I paid this crew $12,000 to do this building, as far as skinning it, roofing it, and doing all the gutters and downspouts and all the insulation. Now, to go along with that, that wasn't pure profit for them, obviously, because they had to rent a telehandler, and that was probably $1,000. And then they have the overhead of running their own business, so they had to drive here every day. They had a scissor lift. They had you know, all the tools. They have all the things to cut this out. You can't use abrasives, so you have to use you know, shears or a nibbler. So they got all those tools, you know, in a truck to get it all here. So they have a lot of overhead. And they also weren't they didn't nickel and dime me. They probably used some of their own sheet metal screws and their own caulk or whatever adhesives they use to do the downspouts. So they have all that stuff because they put buildings together, and they kind of just, you know, rounded that all into the price, and it was all good. So that's how much I paid. And, you know, all buildings are different. Someone might say, oh, you got ripped off. You know, they did my building for $5,000 or something. Not all buildings are the same. Some things that can change the price on a building like this would just be how complicated, you know, how complicated you have things. Like if you have, you know, overhangs on your eaves, or wainscoting to deal with, or perhaps you have a really steep roof that just makes it harder to work on. All that stuff can change the prices, the amount of insulation you do. So my insulation, you know, it probably added 2 to 3 days of them working, just because to run all these bands and stuff on the roof took a long time. And also to put the liners up and get, there's insulation that runs long ways with the purlins and then over top. So not everyone has that level of insulation. So that, I would say that was at least a third of the work that they did was putting this insulation in. So that's just stuff that goes into the cost of things. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I'm happy with what I paid for them. I feel like they made a decent profit for doing hard work, you know, and that's all I can ask for. You know, couple things. I ended up with some leftover stuff, and I don't know, you know, if they didn't do it. You know, they install these buildings all the time and don't have to read directions. So I ended up with a lot of this extra like Insul-Hold stuff. Like there's like 5 rolls left over. So I don't know that they put that up towards spec, but you know, the amount that they put up looked like it was going to hold. And then I also ended up with a bunch of these foam panel liners. So I don't think that they knew, and I also didn't know how many of those I had or how many it was going to take to do the whole building. I believe those were probably for the top of the panels, and I don't think they put them in, which is fine because it's still sealed up there. But that's just like an optional thing that came in the package that I got. But my instructions didn't specifically say that I had enough to do that. So I really can't blame them either. So that's one thing you just want to sort out ahead of time. If, you know, if you're doing a building like this, is kind of look over your whole inventory and kind of have a count on it. So that you can have it all figured out of what goes where. All right, so that's a wrap on the building. As far as, you know, it's up, it's nearly functional. I'll put up my garage doors. I'll have a dry building, and it should be somewhat, it's insulated, so it should stay kind of warm. So hopefully you guys are liking this, and it's helpful information. So hit all the buttons you should be hitting, and then I guess watch the next video, because it's probably going to be garage doors. I don't know. We'll see.